Cinderella is not just a fairy tale. It has to do with you and your own psychology, going from nothing in your life to something big. I'm going to explain some of the symbolism, some of the main points in the story, and explain what it has to do with manifestation and what it has to do with yourself on an individual level. We see in the beginning of the movie that Cinderella is asleep and she has woken up from a dream. She is visited by some birds who ask her to share her dream with them. And she replies that you can't share a dream. This represents how, when we manifest, we are keeping this image and this idea in our hearts, just like Cinderella is with her own dream, keeping it to herself. One of the main themes in Cinderella is that she is mistreated and she lives in a house where she is pretty much a slave, working hard, and she's not being treated well whatsoever by her stepmother and her stepsisters. This represents how small we can feel and how insignificant we can feel in this world sometimes, just being a slave, working every single day, working for nothing in the end. This even represents how we can be held back by our past limiting ideas and our past beliefs, our trauma and things of this nature. These are all things that hold us back, and these can be represented by the stepmother and the stepsisters. They all live in the same household, and being in the same household as a stepmother and a stepsister symbolically means all of those ideas and beliefs inside of you. You are the household, and all of the things that you think and believe in there would be considered your siblings and your family. The mother being a stepmother and the siblings being step-siblings implies distance. Not to say that there's anything wrong with step-siblings, it is simply a symbolic representation. And this is why in the movie they treat her bad, because they don't consider her one of them. And sometimes we can have thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that are actually not ours either. And we hold them in our household as if they were one of us. And this is represented by the stepsisters. We have ideas and beliefs that just bring us down and keep us oppressed and miserable and stuck in fear. This happens a lot with trauma. This happens a lot with our past. Now, throughout Cinderella experiencing all of this turmoil, all of these bad feelings and all this mistreatment, she never loses hope. And now this is a very important part, because many of us can be caught up and drowned in the wave of problems that can come crashing around us. So in manifestation terms, despite her surroundings, despite her stepsisters making her feel worse about herself and oppressing her, she continues to believe and hope despite what's happening. When Cinderella is at her lowest point, this is when the fairy godmother comes in. So this happens to us many times, when we have been through the worst things in our life, when we feel like we're about to give up. This represents divine timing. Things don't always happen exactly when we want them to happen, and this happens when we are aligned with our desired outcome. This also represents how God or the universe or your higher self always conspire to help you receive your desired outcome in the end. They come at exactly the right time. And this all depends on us and how we believe and what exactly we're doing within our own minds sometimes. Cinderella wasn't trying to force her way to go to the ball. She was simply trying to work with what she had. But when she was unable to go to the ball, she still didn't try to force it. And then this is when the fairy godmother came. This represents how we must surrender to what's happening sometimes. And when we do this, then things are allowed to happen. Many times we try to force outcomes and try to force outward circumstances, or even force ourselves to think a certain way, or to try to believe, or to try to manifest. But this doesn't work this way. We have to learn how to let go, actually. We have to learn how to surrender. Now it gets interesting when you break down the movie from here. The ball represents your desires becoming real. So now from start to finish, it looks like this. When you're manifesting, you usually have a picture that you are building up. You're trying to make this feeling as natural as possible. When you're meditating and you have your eyes closed, you are pretending like you are there. Despite your circumstances, despite your situation, despite what's happening around you that may be contrary to what you're imagining, you are still holding this picture. The stepmother's cat is called Lucifer. This represents those doubts and those fears that get in the way of the little rays of hope that you have for your life. Cinderella's friends are mice, and naturally, they get hunted down by cats. The mice represents those little bits of hope that you have for your life. So when you are trying to manifest the life that you want, they're represented by little tiny mice because they are small, and they can easily be hunted down by a little bit of fear and a little bit of doubt. So it's Lucifer's job to hunt them down and destroy them before they can become something big. But when the fairy godmother comes and changes everything around for Cinderella, Lucifer comes and tries to hunt down one of the mice, and then the mouse turns into a white horse. The horse becomes bigger than Lucifer, and Lucifer is cast away. Your small ideas become bigger than the doubts and the fears that try to hunt them down. So when you really feel as though your manifestation is real, while you're meditating, while you're imagining, and everything feels so real and so vivid, this also represents the fairy godmother as well. Because the fairy godmother comes and then puts her in that position where she is in the ball, and everything is fine and she has a lot of money and she's with the prince. But the thing is, it is not permanent, because there is a time limit. So the time limit simply represents how we can imagine something very real, but then we have to come back to this world, back to this reality. Many times you can feel discouraged because we make these pictures and it can be very real, and so we want it to continue, but then when we come back, it can feel as though we've done a whole lot of nothing, or we were just living in a fantasy world. So when the ball is over, Cinderella goes back to her everyday life with her stepsisters. But she still doesn't lose hope, and she still always keeps that image of herself at the ball alive. So as the story goes, Cinderella leaves a glass slipper behind, and now the prince wants to find out who the slipper belonged to. This means now that your manifestation is trying to look for you. You don't have to go out looking for it. So when you make this picture and then you create this very vivid image, now your manifestation is seeking you. You are attracting it. So you have become now Cinderella at the ball. So this is the identity you now have. So now the prince represents that image, that new assumption that you have. So it must find you. You're the only one that fits at this point. So the prince goes around the whole kingdom and looks for Cinderella, the only person who fits the glass slipper. And this represents your specific ideas and beliefs that brought about this manifestation coming to you. So you're the only one that fits, and now it's looking for you specifically out of everyone in the world. So in the end, the prince comes to Cinderella, and then they live happily ever after. You don't have to go out looking for things or forcing things. Your manifestation will always come looking for you. It'll come as long as you hold on to that desired outcome and that desired image. You feel it as though it were real, as if it was true, as if you weren't just Cinderella cleaning the floors and being oppressed by her stepsisters. You are the Princess Cinderella already. So you must always stay connected even in difficult times. And this is one of those secrets to manifestation. It doesn't matter what's happening around you. All that matters is what's going on in your own mind. Life has a certain way of being in which we feel as though we are thrust into this life. Now, this is our regular human perspective. Now, from a higher perspective, we have chosen all of the things that are happening in our life. We have chosen maybe the bad things happening around us. We have chosen the life of poverty. We've chosen the body that we have. Whatever it may be, whatever arrangement you have in your specific life. So these are the necessary elements and the necessary tools for you to manifest what you want in your life. It is not an obstacle. On the contrary, it's something to help you grow and understand life better. From our lower standpoint, from the bottom up thinking, we think as though we have been oppressed unfairly, unjustly, and many times we feel like we have. But this doesn't affect our next step in manifestation. Always from the human perspective, things can feel hopeless, things can feel stuck. But from the higher perspective, then we can always feel like we are free, like we can do something, like there is something that can be done and the impossible can be possible. So considering that you have chosen this life, it is not an obstacle. And once you start seeing your life as a catapult rather than an obstacle, it'll help you manifest much better despite what's happening around you. It just takes a greater understanding from a higher perspective, and that is top-down thinking. Thinking from that perspective, your higher self. God in the universe is always conspiring to help you. It's always trying to help you grow and understand life better, not to be stuck in our regular human way of experiencing life. The name Cinderella comes from the word cinder, which means ashes. Now, out of the ashes comes one of the most famous mythical animals, which is the phoenix. And out of the ashes, which is death, comes forth a fiery bird, which is that which you desire yourself to be. So when you give yourself up to death, your old identity, your past self, you can be reborn as a fiery phoenix or that new person you desire to be. So it's only done through death. Death of the old self, your old conception, and then it gives birth to your new conception. And this is perfectly illustrated by the phoenix, which has a perpetual cycle of death and rebirth for its entire life. So you are born out of the ashes, born out of the life that you are currently living. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is a completely natural part of manifesting, because wherever you are currently, that is exactly where you need to be. And that's where you're going to be to manifest the next part in your life. You don't have to know anybody. You don't have to do anything specific. You don't have to do anything in particular, because everything will happen to you. And then you will start taking action from that point on. It's no longer a mindset of you cannot accomplish anything. Everything will just come flowing into you from the perspective of your desired outcome. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer the comments the best way I can. Like this video and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.